Thanks, Premier. Can I also start just reflecting on how horrified I was to see anti-Semitic hate directed at community overnight. It's profoundly wrong. I also want to flag that it is incredibly destructive to the public health response. Hate directed at any community, geographically, by age cohort, by country of origin, ethnic background, language, whatever. It is destructive to the public health response. We've seen it with Islamophobia, and the reality is communities are focused on protecting themselves, their families and those around them, and we should recognise that. And there are many, many, many Victorians who are working so hard to do the right thing, and I just want to reinforce that it is incredibly destructive to vilify individuals in terms of getting to where we need to be. So I signed directions into law last night. I do want to thank everyone who's now got the difficult task ahead of abiding by all of these directions. That means observing the curfew from tonight, and tomorrow if you're an authorised worker to be travelling with your permit. It wasn't easy to make these decisions, as I said yesterday, but it was essential. We have to get ahead of this. We have to get on top of it to bring the case numbers down that remain high. A reminder of new restrictions which came into place last night. So from 9 p.m, there are really very few reasons to leave your home in Metro Melbourne. Authorised work, health and medical reasons, or in emergency circumstances. And when you come to work tomorrow, if you're an authorised worker, you'll need a permit. That's online now, so you can access that at the coronavirus website, and there's all the information there about what you need to do in order to generate that permit. We've made further changes to make it clear that exercise isn't an opportunity to socialise in large groups, and that taking your mask off isn't an opportunity for social drinking. Playgrounds are closed. Again, a difficult decision. It affects my family. It affects thousands and thousands of families across Melbourne. But as I said yesterday, the reality is there's a risk of transmission in those settings. 50 of our current cases, active cases in Victoria, are under the age of 10. We've seen child-to-child transmission throughout this outbreak in schools, in other circumstances. It happens very quickly in households between children. And we are investigating a potential transmission in a playground. It's not definitive and maybe we'll not be able to make it definitive, but it looks like there's been transmission in a playground. We've also seen transmission between students who were not in classes together, who did not have any other face-to-face interaction other than sharing a walk home. Didn't play together, don't live together, didn't have classes together. Shared an outdoor walk home and transmitted between them. That is more definitive. So the risk is there. We want to minimise every single opportunity in order to get ahead of this. On wastewater, we are continuing to see wastewater detections across Victoria. They're not definitive proof that there are cases there, but it is a potential early signal, and it was a signal that we saw at 480 Lygon Street that we were able to act on early. And so it was really important to be able to prompt people to test by virtue of that. So we want the same message for these suburbs, the Sunshine West industrial area in particular, and we're reaching into those industries in order to facilitate testing. So please step up to get tested if you're working within that area. The Boroondara area continues to ping. Again, no cases identified there, but please bear in mind, if you're symptomatic, we want you to step forward for testing. And the Truganina-Williams Landing area are all showing repeat positive and unexpected detections. There's also been a repeat wastewater detection in Shepperton. Again, not definitive of the case being there, but in particular I want the people of Shep to consider, if they're symptomatic, to come forward for testing. If you live or work in these areas, you don't have to reside there. If you're moving into those areas, especially as an essential worker, please get tested. As the Premier said, Glenara and City of Port Phillip are also areas of concern. Kate will talk to this in more detail, but we're seeing mystery cases here. So this is a place to get tested if you're at all symptomatic, if you've been to any of those exposure sites. And there are dozens and dozens of exposure sites now in those areas, so please go to the website to understand whether you might have been to one of them. We want people to come forward for testing, so again, if you live, work or otherwise moving through those areas, please pay attention to this message. And we want more than 30,000 tests a day. We're just there. We can do a lot more. There's no reason not to go to a testing area. There is a lot of opportunities for testing sites across Metro Melbourne, and there are more that have been stood up in those local government areas in particular. So Albert Park Lake, Paran Town Hall, the Alfred, Brighton Golf Course and others. Some further away may have greater capacity. You can go more than 5 kilometres for testing purposes, so don't feel constrained by that. And visit the coronavirus website to see what the waiting times are, to see what's maybe newly opened and what the operating hours are, and come forward for testing.